welcome everybody. It's great to see a big crowd here tonight, and as the others said, we always appreciate your input and your opinions, whether we agree with them or not. I think this board's made it clear we're into free speech in a big way, and we will continue to be. Last meeting that we had, one thing too, Glenn, I appreciate you bringing the hard copies of this. I only ever got one copy of the top one, and I lost, and I've thrown away all my little ones too. So that'll make it a little more make it a little easier for me to read, to refer to. Hey, last meeting, I'm gonna take a little more time than everybody else, so you guys just gonna have to get used to that. I decided to do a little thing called the no spin zone at the last meeting. And the reason I did that was to refute misinformation that's being posted about our commissioner board members on social media platforms. And it's been going on now for a couple of years pretty much unchallenged, and I think it's time for that to stop. My no spin zone brought the spin doctors out, as I kind of expected, out of the woodwork. And so I think I'll continue again this week with the theme of misinformation for this second edition of the No Spin Zone. I'd like to start by reading a post from Miss Shelley Hightower Carter. It was put out since our last meeting, and she says, I'm reading from my phone, so I got to go back and forth a little bit, so bear with me if you would. It says, it has come to my attention that County Commissioner Rick Morris has chosen to address me indirectly from his official platform using his position to advance political rhetoric. He has suggested that an unnamed individual has misrepresented his campaign promises, accusing them of duplicity. Those familiar with my character will recognize that this approach may not have been in the wisest course or action on his part. For those who attended Monday's meeting, Mr. Morris asserted that he never pledged to refrain from raising taxes. However, evidence exists to the contrary, which I can provide. This behavior exemplifies the archetype, which is an interesting word that I had to look up, but she used it correctly. Exemplifies the archetype of a conventional politician. Whoever felt compelled to show him my last post, please show him this and let him know there will be handouts available for everyone at the next commissioner meeting. So I assume you're working for Shelley, Glenn, and you brought the handouts. Okay, I appreciate that. First of all, let me talk about the cards that are represented on this handout that Glenn. The first card, I mentioned that I only received one of them because in reality, none of us candidates had anything to do with that card. You don't address me, Glenn. I'm talking, okay? This card, if you'll notice, the side of it's cut off, and also on the little card that you got from me, where you would probably find the information of who paid for it. This card was put out by some sort of a PAC here in Stokes County. And by the way, it's illegal for us to participate or interact with a PAC. So we have nothing to do with that top card. It's irrelevant. However, I'll go through it with the folks that can't see it. It has pictures of the three of us down the side with a little bit of biographical information. And then it says, their plan is the title of it. If I'd been wording it, I would say their goals probably instead of their plan. But like I said, I have no knowledge or involvement with this card. The next sub-bullets under it, it says lower taxes and support existing businesses. That should be a goal for any Republican, I would say. A fight to keep prayer before commissioner meeting and keep Stokes County a Second Amendment sanctuary. That's another good goal. Countywide broadband. That's almost my number one goal and has been for the last several years. Attack and drug and overdose problem, another great goal and one that we have signed up to try to do and address. And keep the hospital in Danbury open and keep a 24/7 emergency room in King. So then I'll go down to the card that, second card that Glenn included on the handout. And the title of it is My Plan for a Second Term. This card I did pay for, and it does reflect my true intentions and beliefs as to what I plan to do as a commissioner. And the first bullet on it says lower the property tax rate. Doesn't say lower property taxes. It says lower the property tax rate. That's what we can do as commissioners. It says build a new hospital in Danbury. It says build a 24/7 emergency room in King. It says finish internet expansion now for the unserved. And it says attack drug and overdose problem in the county. And that's all of the things that we've been working on, and I think quite successfully. So now let me shift over to another item. This one, as you folks are probably aware, every time we run, we go to the interact with the Stokes News, and they ask us a series of questions that they put in the paper to help the voters understand where we're coming from and what our priorities are and so forth. And I'm a big believer that if you give the voters the correct information, they are really smart and they always make the right decision if they get the facts. So let me read my response to you to question number 7 from the Stokes News whenever we ran the last time. It says, would you plan any changes in current taxes? And then it asked for a response. In my response, I said, yes, I would like to see some changes. I support the elimination of the dog tax that is currently levied by Stokes County. I would also like to lower the property tax rate in 2026 when the next revaluation occurs, where property values are formally updated. I do not think the property tax rate can be lowered before then, and I would like to keep it the same as it is now until then. I would like to I would look at the fire tax separately and make any adjustments to it based on the justifications submitted by the county's fire commission. I would support a 1/4 cent sales tax increase if the citizens voted for it in a referendum. My support for a voter-approved increase in sales tax would be to help reduce the property tax. Sales tax reduces the burden on landowners by collecting more tax from outside visitors and the county who also buy things here. So let me unpack this answer just a little bit. It says I would like to have kept the tax rate the same until the revow. I did the first year in my vote for that budget. In the second year, I voted to increase taxes, even though I'd hoped not to have to do that. But there were several factors involved in that. First of all, we have an unfunded mandate to expand the courthouse over here. And the cost of that went from $8 to $11 million. So things like that, that's the reason I said last week as I was explaining the revow tax that I would never promise to lower taxes because I don't have a crystal ball. And I couldn't see that these kind of things were going to happen, that we're going to have a big increase there. We also had issues with emergency service, EMS, and the fire service that needed to be addressed. We had personnel turnover challenges that needed to be addressed, and we were dealing with Biden inflation. So that's the reason I never promised to reduce taxes. I always would make it my goal, is like I said, if I'd been doing that first card, I would probably left it if they changed the title. But you never know what's going to happen. Anybody that guarantees you they're going to reduce the property tax, I never vote for them because it means they don't know what they're doing. They don't have a clue what they're getting into. So now, given that, I think everybody should be pretty clear on what my position has been all along on taxes and property tax. Let me move to some additional misinformation that was not mentioned at the last meeting. This is a post I want to read from Mr. Andy Nicholson. This refers back to the second bullet on this card that the PAC put out, I think. And the bullet, I'll read it to you again. It says, fight to keep prayer before commissioner meeting and keep Stokes County a Second Amendment sanctuary. Okay, here is Mr. Nicholson's post. Let me explain the prayer part on their flyer, which was not their flyer, as I explained. When I became chairman on the board, Rick came to me after a meeting and asked me to bring up about taking the prayer out of the meetings, that it could bring a lawsuit. I probably had a discussion with on this topic with him. I don't remember the details of it first exactly, but and then to continue what he said, I responded that the day we do this is the day I leave the board. He had a losing battle. So the next thing you know, we have an atheist group from Wisconsin contacting our attorney demanding we stop doing the prayer. And then he puts in parentheses, coincidence, I think not. Then the next paragraph is, at the polls, when they threw everything but the kitchen sink at me, I informed people how I fought to keep the prayer in the meetings and got their vote. Just before Election Day, this flyer came out. When I confronted Rick about that lie, he laughed. The last part doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what he's talking about. I would tell you, hang on just a second. I would tell you that if I brought that up to Andy, and I probably did, it was probably because the attorney had already told me that somebody else was challenging our prayer policy. I can't think of any other reason I would have mentioned it to Andy. Since I've been county manager and then also here as a commissioner, we've had numerous challenges to our prayer policy from various organizations and lots of discussion on it. My position has always been to keep the prayer on the agenda. You can verify that with Jimmy Walker and other previous commissioners on what my stance has been. But these challenges do raise the question of a possible litigation and the potential cost to taxpayers if we had to do that litigation. So what I'm saying there is it's come up many times, probably 4 or 5 times over the time that I've been associated with local government. My position's always been the same on it, and we're still praying at the meetings, as you heard from Brad today. And if I'm not mistaken, the school board, and somebody can check me on this, has already changed their policy to remove prayer from the agenda just for the reason of avoiding possible litigation. I think I'm correct on that.
They still pray, but they don't have it on the agenda.
Yeah, they do it ahead of time. That's what I was thinking. Right. So for the record, I would consider this post from Mr. Nicholson as an attack on my religious freedom and Christianity. One of the first and the fondest memories I have of Stokes County was about 65 years ago. When I used to come up here and make the trip with my mother from Kernersville to go to the Buffalo Primitive Baptist Church on the Saturdays and Sundays. And it's over on 770, still open as far as I know. And we had all-day meetings with a big lunch, and it made quite an impression on me. Because me and my mother were tight when it came to our religion. If you'll check with my wife, you'll also find out that my normal Sunday routine is to avoid work, as the Bible tells us to do. And I listen to 3 sermons every Sunday. I listen to at 9 o'clock on 98.1 from Galax, a sermon that comes out of Cincinnati, Ohio. I then go to Danbury Baptist Church with Keith and other folks that are in the room here tonight, and I listen to a sermon there. And then I rush home from church and I listen to my 3rd sermon from a church I used to go out to in Austin, Texas, and their sermons are on the internet every Sunday. And that is the highlight of my week. So I would just ask you, does that sound like a person who wants to remove prayer from the agenda? Well, the answer is no. I don't now, and I never have. Okay, now let's look at one additional misinformation post that also includes Miss Shelley Hightower Carter again. and let me read it to you. This one starts out, and it's from Sherry Nicholson. It says, well, it's kind of hard to read, but I'll give it my best shot. Well, you can bet, sweet butts, that bunch has done nothing to help our businesses. Matter of fact, there was secret meetings, or so they thought was secret, and the main purpose was to get all of our businesses out of Stokes County. We have decided to expand. We'll be in Withfield location. Tax rates are much cheaper there than are here now. I don't see how trying to kick businesses out of Stokes County is moving forward. And then Miss Shelley Hightower Carter, she says, wow, that may be why they raised property tax rate, to offset the losses from Nicholson. They crapped in their own yard doing that to y'all. Then Miss Nicholson replies back, we will keep what is here and not move that, but any expansions will be done elsewhere. And then our good friend Glenn Knox chimes in and says, I've heard the same thing for several other groups. There has to be some hidden reason why they are trying to get everyone out except River Street. RS is, I guess, River Street. So Glenn, I would just say if you have any details you'd like to provide us on your comment or evidence to prove it, we would be happy to have you back to speak to us and present that to us. In closing, I would like to inform the 16,000 plus registered Republicans in Stokes County that we held the annual Republican County Convention this past Saturday. About 150 people attended the convention, and about 100 of them elected Miss Shelley Hightower Carter as the chair of the Stokes County Republican Party for the next 2 years. She ran on a platform of uniting the party. Go figure. Since their massive losses in the past election, there is nothing the three of us, and I'm talking about Brad and Keith and I, could do to obtain her group's support. It would be harder than President Trump getting the Democrats to stand up at his meeting that he did to the joint session of Congress a couple of a week or so ago. I would guess that probably out of that 16,000 plus, almost 17,000 registered Republicans that are in the county, I would say 16,000 of them probably were not even aware that we were having a convention this past weekend. That's a big problem and one that we need to address. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.